Wow. Wow. Oh boy. The crown first, then King Swen. Goddamn Floki. He could tell. He could tell. Let's put a pin in that then. Huh. The tension though, look at this. Okay, Thorfinn, come on. Whoa. Wow, look at this. It's interesting that he is hallucinating or having a... Oh, it's not Askeladd, boy. Yeah, he's still got some fight in him. More than enough for these. He's so casual about it, eh? He saw him at the docks. Oh shit! Wow. Old friend Thorkel. There's another that he might have his sights on. Yeah. The title of the episode was Miscalculation. Not too fast now, Askeladd. Hold on. Oh. Oh my god. I think Askeladd spoke too soon there. Get ready, Askeladd. He is the king after all. He is the king after all. This guy's always so animated. Oh. Leaf? It's gotta be Leaf, right? He's still around. He's not gonna leave. Leaf. Wow. He sounds so tired.
11年か。どれほど辛い思いをしてきたか。お前の言う通り、わしにはわからん。
Wow, look at this, man.
まだ十分じゃないというなら、きっとそうなのだろう。昨日のように思い出すんじゃよ。パチパチとはぜるいろり、うまそうな鍋の匂い、トールズ、ヘルガ、ユルバ、そして
And young Thorfinn listening to his stories.
幼いお前の笑顔をな。それでもわしはずっと氷の上を歩き続けた。なぜだかわかるか。どれほどすさんだ海であろうと、どれほど凍えた海だろうと。
Wow. Seen that shot before. And that. Wow. It's really taking me back, man. It's giving me chills.
船乗りは海と戦っとるんだ。戦士と同じように。己の誇りをかけてな。トールズが死んだ時、お前がいなくなった時、わしは誇りにかけて誓った。だからトルフィン、これはお前のために言うんじゃない。わしのためだ。どうあってもお前を故郷のアイスランドへ連れて帰る。それがトールズに対するわしのけじめだ。
そ知らぬ風に見えるがな。先ほど一瞬のことです。ウェールズと聞いて顔を入れました。ウェールズに操めの弱みにつながる何かがあるやもしれません。
Oh, okay. I thought the king already like figured it out.
くそ。なんなんだ。どういうことだ、スベンおめえ。俺とウェールズのつながりを知って。
Yeah, I thought he had it figured out or something.
そんなはずはねえ。フローキに話したことはねえ。たとえ知っていたとしても、俺への嫌がらせのためだけに。
He is now, though. He is now.
ありえねえ。春にはウェールズが火の海になっちまってことだ。くそ。考えろ。時間はねえ。春先までに何ができる。
There's really only one thing he can do here, right?
いや、まともに使えるのはトルケルの兵500だけだ。ダメだ。結局はウェールズが主戦場になる。戦う方向で考えるな。それにどさくさに乗じて王の資格がクヌート殿下を狙いに来るかもしれん。
Wow.
故郷。
Wow. There's only really one thing Askeladd can do right now, and it's not going to be easy either, right?
遥かな西、海の向こう。
Wow. That takes you back to episode 1.
フィンランドだ。国に戻って少し落ち着いたら一緒にかの地を目指そう。
Wow.
お前も言っていたじゃないか。トールズも行きたがっていたと。生きていれば。
Oh my
ト
god.
ールズもかの地を目指したに違いない。豊かで温かな地、そんな国を作ろう。フィンランドなら
Wow.
ヴィンランドなら
Wow, look at this imagery right here. Wow. Wow.
なんでウェールズ人たちがデンジンのお前に味方したんだ。
おふくろの墓がある。あの地は俺の故郷、俺の国だ。おふくろの愛した国だ。
そうか。そいつはまあ。
Yeah.
この話は誰にも言うんじゃねえぞ。
分かってるよ。
たく。
He's gonna try to get a reaction out of Askeladd now. He's really gonna dig in.
俺ってやつはどうしてこう土壇場の月がないのか。
Make your own luck. Make your own luck, Askeladd. Ah! God damn it! Ah! That's good setup. That is good setup for the grand finale. Okay, folks, there it is. The penultimate episode of this incredible anime, of this incredible story. A story that looks like it is about to, or not a story, but a story arc that certainly looks like and feels like it's about to reach its conclusion in this next episode. You know, that final shot of Askeladd, you know, walking up to the king. You know, his toga wrapped, proudly wrapped in his toga. You know, distinct look. You know, it certainly distinguishes him from the rest of the crowd. Now, of course, you know, I doubt most of the Danes really know the significance of the toga that he's wrapped in. But you see that he's proud. And I loved how the entire frame was kind of taken up by that toga, right? As he's essentially in front of the camera. And then he walks up to the king. And then you see the shot. You see Canute on one side and King on the other side. And of course, you know, he spoke of not having the luck that he desires in these kind of situations. And the final shot of the penultimate episode is that trademark Askeladd smirk, right? I think at this point in time, or that point in time, you know, that smirk, and it cuts to black or fades to black, I believe he knows the next step. He knows in his mind. He knows the thing that has to be done here. So by the end of it, I do think there is clarity for Askeladd there. Though, of course, earlier in the episode, as he was kind of caught off guard, you know, you could even say it was a little bit out of character for him to have that type of reaction, right? It was a split moment, right? And I thought the animation, or I guess the drawing of it, it was so detailed, right? You rarely see Askeladd like that, right? That specific look, I mean, that in itself might be the first time I've actually seen Askeladd like that. You know, I've seen moments of him kind of letting that stoic face kind of slip every now and then, right? And recently I kind of saw that as the King Swen, kind of got it right on about his mother being a slave. And you see, and of course, Thorfinn also saw and felt that moment of Askeladd kind of letting it slip and it having quite a bit of an effect on him, right? Same thing happened here. And of course, Floki picks up on this. And, you know, it's not surprising that Floki picks up on it, given the fact that, you know, it's clear that he is always kind of scanning his surroundings. Even earlier, you know, as he comes in, he's kind of looking at the faces, all the different faces. Knute's also doing the same thing as well. They can all sense the tension, and of course, that's one of the major aspects of this episode, right? The tension in that room. I mean, it feels like a spark can set it off. And realistically speaking, I feel like it is going to be set off, right? It's just on edge. Everything is just on edge. So they really sold it. They really sold the tension in that room, right? And the unease, that feeling of unease. You feel it. You really do feel it. And, before I go any further, I must say the art direction in this episode is just exceptional. It's just top notch, man. I mean, some of the imagery that's on display throughout this episode is just so evocative, isn't it? So poignant. Some of these moments that Leif and Thorfinn are having, some of those scenes are just incredible. You see Thorfinn on one end kind of engulfed by the darkness. That's a lost individual. That is someone who needs help. That is someone who needs a direction, right? He's kind of like in a free fall. And, I love how in some of the split screen, it's not a split screen, but you see the frame is kind of divided. On one end you have Thorfinn, and then of course on the other side you have the light, right? Leif Erikson, right? This glimmer of hope. And you see how the light is trying to, spread into all directions, trying to get to the darkness, trying to kind of illuminate Thorfinn. But, the scene itself, Leif Erikson down there, Leif Erikson's heartbreaking plea to Thorfinn, this young adult that he's known since he was a child. I thought that was a phenomenal scene. Incredible voice acting by the voice actor who plays Leif Erikson, and I loved how he was drawn. You see in a lot of those moments he almost breaks, and he's about to cry, but then he kind of catches himself, right? There's a couple of those moments, and then of course I mentioned the drawing for Askeladd, the detailed drawing of his expression. I mean, this episode once again highlights the importance of those facial expressions, and the facial expressions themselves can tell quite a story. Be it through Askeladd's expressions, be it through Thorkell's expressions, be it through Floki's expressions, and his key eye for, picking up detail and taking in detail. And it makes sense. It makes sense for a person in his position to be like this, right? To have an eye for individuals that are important, people of interest, right? And you see it pays off here, doesn't it? As he catches Askeladd. For a split moment, he catches him. He catches him slipping, essentially. It really is quite rare for Askeladd to give it away like that, right? His true feelings. He's a bit of a master at kind of keeping it in, keeping it locked in, and having that stoic presentation, essentially, right? Not that time. That time, wow. It looked like he saw a ghost. But, returning to Leif Erikson, you finally really get to see just how much this has affected him over the past decade, 11 years to be exact. Wow. Earlier it was really clear that this is a tired man. He's aged quite a bit, and of course, having this over his head, thinking about Thorfinn, this whole time, you could tell that it's had a major effect on him. And it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking for him to see this young adult in front of him that he knew as a child. And as a child, he was so full of life, right? A smiling young boy, as he kind of, recalls that moment from episode 1. He said he remembers it like it was yesterday. So do I. It's one of those really standout moments of the series, isn't it? Him being in Thor's longhouse, Helga and Ylva and the kids, Thorfinn, a young smiling Thorfinn specifically, all of that, him kind of, describing it and thinking about it, it was kind of playing out in my mind. So I love how the show or the storytelling kind of did that for the audience, right? Him remembering it, kind of doubling as us also remembering it vividly, essentially. Love that moment. This individual in front of him, this young adult in front of him, it's a broken person. A person that is just full of emptiness and kind of clings on to this obsession. And I love how Thor is just kind of brought back in to the narrative, right? I love how he, Leif Erikson that is, brings Thor's back into the conversation here. And, that one image, some of that imagery of Thor's in Vinland, essentially, wow. The whole lead up, that whole scene, just, wow, it brought me to tears. It certainly was quite emotionally moving, wasn't it? But, him, kind of bringing up this hope, this symbol, this paradise that is yet to come, right? This heaven on earth, essentially. Again, kind of ties back to the ideas of Avalon and heaven, and Vinland all together, right? Again, kind of brings in Canute as well, wanting to build a heaven on earth, a paradise of their own creation. And this whole notion of, creating a country like that. Yeah, I think it looks like by the end of it, Thorfinn kind of has a breakthrough moment. Again, some striking imagery at that moment in time as well. Thorfinn seeing the light, right? The glimmer of hope. So is this it? Is this the breakthrough moment? Is Thorfinn taking his first steps, essentially on the path of, freeing himself from this obsession, right? From this darkness, this emptiness he's been carrying for the last decade or so? Is he finally about to take the first steps in kind of reconnecting with the person he was all that time ago, right? The true Thorfinn, the real Thorfinn, right? I mean, there's a long journey ahead. I don't think it's a simple fix or anything. Even though this could be that breakthrough, I think there's still a tough road ahead for Thorfinn. I think Leif Erikson has done something quite substantial here for Thorfinn. I think that's for sure. But I still believe, like I mentioned in my last discussion for episode 22, he needs some alone time. He needs to spend some time by himself. A lot of introspection. He needs to kind of get himself in order, right? Think about these last few years, and think about the things that are yet to come, that should come, right? He needs some time by himself. I believe that is necessary for him. So maybe this might not be an immediate return, as I don't think he's ready just yet to go back home and to face Helga and Ylva just yet. But, these are the first steps towards healing, right? I think the signs are good. Have I seen the final scene of Askeladd and Thorfinn already in that last episode? I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like surely there has to be another scene between Askeladd and Thorfinn. A different type of scene, right? But the thing is, for that to happen, Thorfinn needs to go there. And I don't know. I just, it's kind of tough to judge how things are going to play out for Thorfinn in even the next episode, right? The next steps ahead. I feel like I need another scene of Askeladd and Thorfinn, right? Like a final scene, essentially. And I say final scene because, folks, this is the last episode coming up. And the setup of this episode makes it really quite clear that this is the moment. This is the moment for Askeladd. And that's the reason I was mentioning that final shot. Him, in his toga, proud, walking up to the king. It's all been leading up to this. It's been building up to this. And, they set up quite adequately that he's backed into a corner. Now. Again, there's that amazing scene. It's like a visual depiction of the brainstorm, right? The storm that's raging in his mind. And I love how it kind of gave me a look into Askeladd's inner mind, right? Kind of going through the scenarios. And you see that almost everything he's kind of thinking of, any idea he thinks of, it's either impractical given the nature of the situation and the time constraints, or it just kind of leads to a dead end. So there you really start to feel the whole, being backed into the corner nature of the situation. But yeah, all of that being said, something quite substantial is about to go down. It is the final episode, folks, and the situation at hand, wow. Listen, in terms of how I think it could play out, I guess a few possibilities. Okay, King Swen, somehow, or, it appears it was a coincidence, as Askeladd kind of thought himself. Initially I thought maybe, okay, through intel and information, he was able to gather that this man has connections to that land, right? And that they were able to kind of get safe refuge through those lands. So I was just kind of giving him a lot of credit. The king, that is, right? Again, he is the king. That should be, that shouldn't be forgotten. He's a king for a reason, right? He has his resources. He himself is also quite clever, right? You have to be to be in that position. But it turns out it was actually more of a favorable coincidence for the king. And then, of course, to build on top of that, Floki happened to catch that moment. Askeladd's expression. And of course, the look in itself is quite haunting, isn't it? To see Askeladd like that. But yeah, Floki caught that, immediately goes to the king, tells him about it. Now the king knows, right? Now the king is going to try and get a reaction out of Askeladd, right? He is going to try. He's going to jab at him. Is there even a possibility that he might put Askeladd in charge of this campaign come springtime, right? Though, if that is the case, that could kind of play into Askeladd's hands. So for that reason, I'm not sure if that is a possibility here. So he's certainly going to provoke Askeladd, isn't he? Now that he knows there might be some kind of connection there. And Askeladd's reactions are going to be so interesting to see here. As he was telling Thorkel, this land is my home. This is my country. This is the land my mother loved. And her grave is there too. Right? And of course, that scene in itself I thought was quite interesting, that he is openly telling Thorkel about this. And, even Thorkel is clever enough to know that, of course, Askeladd must have had some kind of connection, right? Given the fact that they escaped him by going through those lands and they were given safe passage through those lands. So he knows. So for that reason, he kind of brings it up to Askeladd, right? And I love that, I spoke of expressions, right? I love how once Askeladd's called up to the king, Thorkel's got this eye on him, right? He's kind of looking at him as he walks by. He's kind of tracking him. So I think Thorkel knows there is a possibility here for quite an explosive moment, right? Situation. Like I mentioned, man, a spark. I feel like a spark can just set off that place. And I believe it is. I believe it is going to set off that place. And that spark being Askeladd. It's in his hands. I think it's in his hands. Everything's been leading up to this. He's been trying to, make sure that his homeland, his mother's homeland, is protected long after his time as well. And of course, his plan this whole time has been Prince Canute. So there's still that angle as well, that he needs to install him as king. And folks, if I'm Askeladd, there is only one thing to do here. And he's in a really unique situation as well, isn't he? To be that close to the king. Right? He's got to kill King Swen. This is his chance, right? Yes, the connotations of that are, wow. I'll get into that, but this is it. He told he told Prince Canute all the time ago, even if he needs to give up his life, he'll do it, right? So I think this is it. I think this is the grandstand finale. This is the last stand of Askeladd, right? The descendant of Arturios. The last descendant of Arturios, that imagery of him in his toga walking up to the king, I think he has to kill the king. I really do think he has to kill the king, and that's the reason I keep saying a spark is going to set this place off, and that also guarantees that there is going to be no campaign in the spring against his homeland, right? I think this is it. And that is... The thought of that is incredibly exciting, incredibly sad and exhilarating. And that smile I mentioned and him knowing how this is about to play out, I feel like he knows he has to kill King Swen. But then, of course, if that is to go down, if Askeladd is to kill King Swen, then you have to take into account how King or Prince Canute is supposed to act in that type of situation, right? His father, the king, getting killed in front of him, right? The next in line, essentially, and the people that he still needs. He needs those people, the support of those people. These are the people of the court. Because if King Swen dies there, that's the opening right there, right? For Prince Canute to take that position as king. For that reason, he is going to have to act accordingly. If Askeladd is up there right now and he knows that he is about to kill the king, I think telling Thorkel might kind of help Thorkel understand as well, right? Though, of course, Thorkel knew he has connections, so if there is any sort of regicide, I suppose, I think, Thorkel is going to understand. And of course, him and Canute are going to understand. I mean, I think Canute is most definitely going to understand any of Askeladd's actions, but I think having Thorkel understand as well, I think that's important. I think that is important. And of course, there's a really distinct line of dialogue earlier and, it got a reaction out of me. I believe the line of dialogue through Askeladd was, "No one here is so foolish as to shed blood in this place," right? I mean, he is essentially spot on, but, that that in itself is an opportunity for him, right? That is his opening, right? That he does have the upper hand here. He's got the element of surprise on his side. He has the chance to strike the king, right? A definitive strike before anyone can get to him. That's why I keep thinking this is such a unique chance for him, opportunity for him, right? And Askeladd, given the fact that they've clearly set up that, he's kind of backed into a corner now. Askeladd's intelligent enough to know that this might be his final chance, his final definitive chance. He himself has that chance, that distinct possibility in front of him, almost a guarantee in front of him that if he does this, if he kills the king, he ensures the safety of his people for years and decades to come, perhaps. And, I've been saying that I honestly just don't expect Askeladd's story to continue into season 2. So, yeah, I think it's all kind of right there. As of this point, I really only see one possibility here. I don't think he can talk himself out of this. There's just no angle. So those are my thoughts on that matter. I think there's some exceptional setup in this episode. But, the whole scene in itself, the king taking quite a different approach, as he has to at this point in time. These are people that he needs them on his side. I'm speaking of Swen, the people of the court, and of course, it also played its actual part, communicating the next steps. So his people, his loyal people, and retainers, essentially, and the chieftains know about the direction they're about to head into, right, in the next few months. Again, spring being the new campaign after Ireland, essentially. And then, of course, rewarding some of these chieftains, for the things they've done for him and to ensure that loyalty. So this gathering certainly played its actual part as well. But yeah, like I mentioned, I don't think King Sven is going to need their loyalty for much longer. I really just don't think so. And I spoke of all that, edge of your seat tension. This is Askeladd's goal, right? To have some of these rumors spread, the gossiping. He wanted all of this. And then, like I mentioned, you see that King Swen, had to take, a definitive approach to kind of dispel some of these rumors that are going around that he wanted his, son killed. Because no one wants to follow a king that's going to kill his own son, right? That was the whole point of sending him out, right? And having that cover that, he died in battle, even though it was essentially sending him to his death. But you see that he wasn't completely successful in dispelling those rumors either. You could see there's still a few people in the court that don't quite buy this, right? They kind of see through it. That one guy said, he's only really doing this because he has to, or they're doing this because they have to, right? To put up a facade or put up this act. So in that sense, King Swen even kind of concedes defeat, doesn't he? To Askeladd and Prince Canute for now, right? For now, at least. But yeah, I think that's about it, folks. I think that's about it for this incredible episode. I've said it a long time ago. This feels like a live action show, right? It's an anime, and it's an incredible anime. But that episode once again felt like I was just watching something on HBO. Once again, the incredible score is quite noticeable. The pacing, the deliberate pacing is quite noticeable. Voice acting. Yeah, I thought that was a fantastic episode and an incredible setup for the grand finale of season 1. I believe it to be Askeladd's final stand. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, if that is the case, I'm exhilarated by that thought. I'm quite sad about that thought as well. And yeah, really quite excited. Really quite excited for all the setup here in this episode. And for the things to come in that finale, the grand finale. And lastly, speaking of Askeladd, there's that one moment that's so on the nose, of him kind of having this moment to himself, this is it. I've got him. This is going to exactly how I expected this to go. You could tell right then and there, it's just a little too on the nose for it to actually be exactly how he hoped it was going to go, right? Miscalculation. the title of the episode. Yeah, so that's about it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access one last time to the finale or full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and supporting the channel. The link is in the description, in the pinned comment. Also, I'm on social media if you're into that. Again, pinned comment, description. Right then, folks, thank you for joining me, and I really hope to see you again for the last one, for the grand finale of this incredible anime. Until then, take it easy.